Hello, beautiful souls. This week we are talking about procrastination, and I'm excited to be joining you from Peru. And I'm sending lots of love to all of you wherever you are in the world. So today is April 16th. So let's dive in. All right. Um, all right. First and foremost, I really, really, really desire that you understand this relationship um, around the neuroscience of procrastination, because oftentimes we get told by society that procrastination is simply, oh, you're being lazy. And I kind of want to unpack that a bit today. So, what's actually happening in the brain is that the task feels overwhelming. There's uncertainty in the nervous system. A task can feel identity threatening. Excuse me. Or it can be emotionally charged. And all of these states that we just talked about. Hang on just a second. Goodness, thank you. All of these states that we just talked about, they all activate the limbic system, and especially the amygdala, right? And so what's actually happening in the body is that a threat response is coming forward. Um, Even if the task is objectively safe, right? And so here's kind of like this split that's happening. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic and planning and things of this nature, is saying this is important. And the limbic system, which is where our emotion is stored, where survival techniques are stored, right? Like the wiring for survival is stored. And the amygdala, which is completely activates and is activated by fear, right? Though that system in us is saying, this isn't safe, this isn't safe. And so there's a conflict. And our nervous system is going to choose safety over logic every time. Every time. And so, in order to move through the tasks which you are now aware of that you procrastinate on or have labeled yourself as doing that, the way through that then is for us to expand our nervous system's capacity. Okay? We're going to come back to that because I also want you to know that the nervous system is reinforcing this procrastination because there is a dopamine and avoidance loop happening, right? And so avoid the task equals immediate relief for the nervous system, right? Relief then equals a dopamine hit. And so therefore, we are training the brain to say avoidance equals reward. And therein lies the self-sabotage loop. Okay? So I really, really, really want you want each of us to understand that procrastination is not a failure of discipline. It is the success of our nervous system trying to protect us. Okay, and so now, how do we shift our capacity? We shift our relationship to that dopamine loop, right? Okay, so sorry. Um, I want to break this down even more, and I want to use IFS, internal family systems. And so we have not yet um, really dove into unpacking IFS. And so I want to take a few moments to do that and to give you the framework to be able to then navigate the rest of this um, training around procrastination. Recognizing that this is just a different lens to look through. And as always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Okay. So IFS, Internal Family Systems, was developed by Richard Schwartz and is based on a very simple but powerful idea. And that is the idea that we are not just a single self, that we are made up of different parts, quote unquote, with each part having its own role, voice, and intention. And um, and every part then, even the ones that feel frustrating, is trying, the intention behind the frustration is to actually help you, right? And so let's break this down a little bit. There are three main parts um, of the IFS framework, and that is we have managers, and these are the planners and protectors, right? The managers are proactive protectors. They try to keep life controlled, predictable, and safe by planning, avoiding risk, striving for perfection, overthinking, and or overworking, right? Their goal is to prevent us from feeling pain before it happens. Key word there, right? Before it happens. And so, relating this back to procrastination, it might sound like, oh, my project isn't ready yet. My paper isn't ready yet. My offer isn't ready yet, right? I need more time to think about this. Or let's wait to do that until I feel a bit more prepared. Please raise your hand or comment in the comments in the school community or on this training itself, if any of those have ever resonated with you. I know they sure have with me, right? And so these are our our planners and our protectors, right? Our proactive protectors, aka our managers. Now, the second part of this um, three-pillar framework, right, is the firefighters. And the firefighters are just like we think of firefighters in our everyday life. These are the emergency responders, right? They show up after discomfort has already been activated. And they try to quickly put out the emotional fires by helping us escape or numb. And so this might look like an addiction to video games. It might look like an addiction to alcohol. It might look like scrolling social media. It might look like binge watching Netflix. It also could look like going to the gym excessively. It could also look like overeating, right? Burying our emotions through food. We get this phrase comfort food, right? Um, it might look like, oh, you need to launch an offer in your business, and then your firefighters go, "Oh, but look at that certification. Don't you need that other certification, right?" So this can be a form of distraction, right? Or all of a sudden you're just like completely unmotivated to complete the task at hand, right? The firefighter has like flooded with water, right? Completely put out any kind of excitement or any emotional fire, right? At all. And so what's happened is that their goal, right? I mean, keeping in mind they're trying to help, right? Their goal is for you to stop feeling overwhelmed in your emotion right now, right? Immediately. So if that means like a full-on fire hose of water comes your way, right? And you go just like numb out, you completely feel unmotivated, you're just like, right? Um, and so what this might, tying it back specifically to procrastination, what this might sound like then is you're in the middle of writing and or organizing, um, preparing for XYZ, you fill in the blank, and then all of a sudden like this thought comes in your mind and goes, oh, don't you want to check Instagram for a minute, just a minute, right? And that minute ends up being 3 hours later, and now you're like, oh man, I don't want to do that thing that I was doing before I checked Instagram now. Completely unmotivated, right? Um, or we might say, "Psh, I can't deal with this today." Just like firewall up. Okay. Or it can also sound like, um, I don't, I don't want to do X. X is a big thing, right? I'm gonna come over here and do Y. Little bitty thing. Let's do something easier instead. I don't want to tackle that X thing right now, right? Uh, Again, if any of this sounds familiar to what you have thought or how you have acted in your own life, uh, feel free to uh, step up to the plate and be vulnerable, own it, right? Because when we own it, we can see it. When we can see it, we can change it, right? So, really inviting you to utilize this training as a way for you to gain deeper awareness into how you might be procrastinating, and maybe you haven't labeled it that way yet, and that's okay, right? Um, but now that we can see it from different angles, we have the ability to shift how we're building capacity for our nervous system and um, how present we can be with difficult and uncomfortable emotions, right? So all of that is super huge when we are moving forward on our brick roads to our own personal growth. So, all right, the third pillar here in IFS uh, constitutes the exiles, the wounded parts. Okay, and our exiles are the parts of us that carry, if we're going to use Hawking's framework, a very low vibration, right? This is where shame may hang out, where fear can hang out, where rejection can hang out. and where the belief I'm not enough is often interwoven and manifested through our exiles, right? These are often formed um, early in life um, because we had to push um, our feelings down. We took on the identity of needing to act a certain way or do a certain thing, um, or not do a certain thing, not express our emotions, or whatnot, not cry, not talk about it, right? Act like it didn't exist. All of these things, right? And so our exiles are all of those. You also may, to use another framework, may know this as shadow work, right? This might land more for you. And so these parts of us that have been pushed out of our awareness, really like our unconscious or subconscious wiring. Um, because in the moment when a life experience happened, the emotion was too intense for us to actually feel, right? And so it got pushed down and it got pushed down deep. And sometimes these exiles are running our patterns, even when we're consciously trying to shift and consciously trying to do X, Y, and Z differently, and we're hitting this wall, right? And it feels like self-sabotage. It's because we haven't made peace with an exile, oftentimes. And so the exile's core fear is if I'm seen, I'll be hurt again. So just take a moment to pause and to feel into where that lands in your body. It might be your throat. You couldn't speak your truth at some younger age. It could be your stomach. Right? You weren't able to, you were always outsourcing your personal power, right? People pleasing, over giving, being the mediator, being the diplomat, right? Accounting for everybody else's needs ahead of yours, not actually even recognizing your own needs, right? That could all be stomach. It could be in liver, right? Suppressed anger, like really resentful about how situations happen, unfolded, unprocessed. And wherever that has landed in your body, that's one space for you to start to unpack the emotions in that space, the beliefs that might be held in that space. And I would encourage you to work with your exiles very gently, right? Um, Without judgment, allowing them to trust you enough to come forward, right? That's huge, super huge. So honor that. And of course, if you need help with honoring that or holding space for that, any of that, always feel free to reach out and we can do something together one-on-one for sure. So these three pillars of the IFS framework uh, interweave together in this kind of capacity. You can think of it like the exiles hold the pain. The managers trying to prevent the pain from being activated in the first place. And the firefighters step in when the pain happens, right? What I, what's really a significant takeaway that I hope that you're hearing in this excuse me, excuse me, is that you are not broken. You do not need fixing. Okay? Every part of you is trying to protect you, even procrastination. So if we can shift our perspective of instead of being mad at ourselves, because dang nabbit, I told myself I was going to do this and I didn't. And now I'm upset with myself. And then guess what? We reinforce default patterning. Maybe the default is, well, shit, I already blew my day, so I'm going to go to the gym. Or could go the other way, right? I'm going to calm myself down when playing video games, or a bowl of ice cream, or a bag of chips, or whatever it is, right? A glass of wine. Whatever it is that has been your pattern, when the strong judgment comes in because you get mad at yourself, you should have done better, you should have known better, you shouldn't be doing better, right? All of that is just reinforcing the dopamine avoidance loop. Okay? So if we are willing to see that procrastination is helping us to see where our nervous system capacity edge is around XYZ task, then we can shift to having compassion for ourselves. We can even go to the extent of saying, thank you, procrastination, for coming forward. Because now I see the pattern I have been cycling through. And now I'm going to choose differently. Right? And so that process that I just went through breaks down to three things. One, we see it, we have an awareness, then we have compassion for it, and then we consciously make a different choice. And that conscious different choice helps to build our neuroplasticity to choose differently and for our brain to not have the same dopamine loop that it was having. We can shift it through practice, right? Okay, so okay, I just want to take an example and break it down. We talked about how procrastination might sound. So let's take an example of I'll do it later, right? Can you now see as we lay over the IFS framework that the manager is trying to protect us by avoiding imperfection, right? In this statement, I'll do it later, the firefighter is distracting us from discomfort. Or I'll do it later is coming forward in you as an exile that's protecting the fear if I fail, I'm not enough. Recognizing that how procrastination activates your nervous system may vary, likely will vary between people. Okay. And it may vary even based on the types of tasks within your own self. Okay. But if we can bring awareness to, oh, well, um when I'm getting ready to shoot a video, I need to pace around the room, right? What am I doing? What's that? What's that about? Right? Um, or I put it off for a couple of days. Or um, or I never do it, right? Um, and if we can see how different tasks are activating us, then we may get to the same conclusion, like in those three examples that I gave you, might all of them might lead back to visibility, right? A fear of imperfection, a fear of uh, rejection, a fear of um, judgment from others, right? Which also could lead back to rejection, right? And all of these ultimately lead back to safety, right? So, but they're different avenues. And you have the opportunity to sit with a particular aspect of visibility, right? And be like, oh, why do I avoid making videos, right? Oh, okay. Well, and then you can, maybe the story comes forward, right? Maybe the incident that you didn't remember, or maybe you remembered it um, as like an identity shifter for you, right? Oh, well, when I was 8, I went on stage and people laughed at me. Okay, right? Now, then you can start to unpack that. And that's how we expand the capacity of our nervous system. That's one way, anyways, right? Um, and so ultimately, instead of staying in that space of frustration and anger, self-anger and self-judgment, and which might sound like, why am I still doing it like this? Right? We can bring in compassion and say, what part of me is trying to protect me from feeling? And we can get curious. What are the feelings that I'm avoiding? Right? If you want to ask why am I avoiding those feelings? You can, right? It may or may not be beneficial, right? But then you get to see it, right? You get to have the deeper awareness of what's happening, of the subconscious patterning, of the feelings that have been exiled, that are ready to come up to the surface. And now, because you have it all laid out, you can make a different choice. And when you make a different choice, you have a different response in the body, right? You send a different message to the nervous system. And when we do that repeatedly, we build different neural pathways and we build different dopamine loops, right? So, um, whenever we come across procrastination, I really want to invite you to see this as an invitation where growth is available, where identity expansion is actually required. All right, so there have been um, a lot of information in that, and so I want to take an opportunity to ask you a few questions for you to take a moment, write these questions down. I will also put them in writing so that if you don't catch them or if you want to add them to your own notes afterwards, they'll be easy to reference. And here's what I want to ask you. Like, what task have you been avoiding? Bring that forward. And when you think about that task, what emotion comes up? And then to integrate the IFS framework, what part of you, manager, firefighter, exile, shows up when you approach that task? And what part of you is protecting? What is that part protecting? Sorry. If we can do that when we notice procrastination within ourselves, we have the ability to grow exponentially. Okay. All right. So let's bring this even more into the body and I invite you to come to the edge of your seat. We're going to go through a guided practice. And just allow yourself to be present, inviting you to lower your eyelids down, roll your shoulders down and back, create some openness in the heart space and front and back of the heart space, an allowance to see something different, and a willingness to see something differently. As you lower your eyes towards the floor or close them completely, begin to bring awareness to your breath. Notice how it is entering the body. Noticing how it's leaving the body. And I begin to allow the body to soften. Allow yourself to feel the support of your chair, of the floor. Allow the body to feel how it's being supported. Now, gently bring to mind one task that you've been avoiding. And notice what happens in the body. Where do you feel the resistance? Perhaps your throat, your chest, your stomach, your jaw. Stay with the sensation, not the story. Stay with the sensation. And if that sensation had a voice, what would it say to you? And as you're ready, if that sensation had a job, what is it trying to protect you from? Now I invite you to say to that sensation, I see you. Thank you for protecting me. You don't have to do this alone anymore. You can place your hands on the part, and I invite you to take an inhale through the nose. Direct the breath to that space where you're feeling the sensation. And allow the breath and your presence to support the discomfort of that sensation. Don't try to remove it or suppress it. Instead, using the breath, allow yourself to increase your capacity to hold that sensation. Exhale as you need to. And inhale and repeat the process as you need to. And then repeat the process until the sensation has been metabolized, until you feel regulated. Once you're in that regulated place, what is the smallest next step you can take? For completing your task? Not the whole task, just an aspect of it. And when you have that next step in mind, gently flutter your eyelids open and take a moment to write that next step down in your journal or in your notes. And just allow the breath to come in the body, in through the nose, exhaling through the mouth, if that feels more regulating, and coming into a place where you can inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. And as we close our training today, inviting you to recognize that procrastination is not where you are failing. It is where your nervous system is asking for more support, more safety, and more capacity. And the more that you meet yourself in that sensation and hold its discomfort, that is the moment where you stop self-sabotaging. And that is the moment where you start to embody your self-leadership. So thank you for your vulnerability, for your willingness, for your commitment to your own self-leadership, for your commitment to walk your own yellow brick road. Celebrating each one of you today as we come into a different relationship with procrastination and our own capacity for expansion. Sending you so much love. Take care.